Well, good evening, everyone, and welcome to a new episode of He Said, He Said, He Said, a look at the world from a seasoned Black man's perspective. I'm your host, Alvin King, and we are live again, ladies and gentlemen, and we are so happy that you guys are joining us. Hopefully, all of you have had a great week. It has definitely flown by, as Sean, Bobby, and I have said earlier today. Tonight, we close out our April for Art series where we've had the honor of showcasing 4 incredible artists. We began with Atlanta's own Cyrus Nelson, whose compositions are a striking fusion of texture, pattern, and color. Then we welcomed the visionary Greg Scott, whose work bursts with imagination, style, and innovation. And just last week, we featured Baltimore's Larry Perry, a self-taught painter who began his journey in August of 2014 and is redefining the next wave of visual storytelling. And tonight, we are ending with the ladies and gentlemen. We are thrilled to present our final artist from the catwalk to the canvas, ladies and gentlemen, Maria Lana Queen. A former runway model and breast cancer survivor, Maria has transformed her journey into powerful abstract works that speak to healing, heritage, and hope. Thank you all again for joining us and celebrating the art and the voices behind it, because this has been a great series for us. We love doing it, and we know that the artists who have participated with us, ladies and gentlemen, over the last few weeks have really appreciated He Said, bringing this to all of you. I said I wasn't going to do this also, but I got to do it because backstage they made me do it. I'm going to tell you what happened a couple of weeks ago. I work in corporate America. I walked into my office. There was this group of millennials in the office. And I walked in like I normally do, going to my office. I said good morning to them. And one of them screamed out, "Oh, look at Mr. Stylish. That's what I'm going to call you from now on." And I literally stopped in my tracks and pulled my mask down and said, "No, you will call me Alvin King." And I was just like, first of all, where do you get the nerve that you can just like cross the boundaries and do things that are so out of character for me? So over the last few weeks, I have been sitting in some of these meetings listening to corporate jargon. So just a couple of things that I've been hearing that I think is just so annoying to me that people say in corporate settings, like, at the end of the day. This is often used as a filler phrase, including a point without actually adding any substance. It's seen as redundant and helpful. And then it's that phrase, "it is what it is." Now, this phrase is seen as a passive and unhelpful, especially when used in situations where action is needed. And then taken offline. First of all, if you got to say taken offline, in some cases, this is often used as uncomfortable and when controversial topics are there, and the phrase is considered evasive and can be frustrating. And last but not least, I have a couple of them, but this one is really the one that really gets me the most. After a meeting is over and someone says to you, this is my truth. And I'm like, this is your truth. And especially when you're talking to them like you're already called them a liar or something like that. And it just really blows my mind. I'm sorry. And the last one is, this is just my opinion. Now, when you're talking to somebody and they say, this is just your opinion, and you're looking around and you don't see anybody else but them, it just frustrates me. Like, well, why are they saying that? And it's usually because, they feel like you don't believe them and they feel like they have to prove a point. All right. So anyway, ladies and gentlemen, my co-hosts, they made me talk about this because I wasn't going to say this tonight. But again, thank you all for being here. And before I bring on the guys tonight, I got to tell you about something that He Said has just been invited to by the mayor's office, ladies and gentlemen. There is an event during Pride weekend in May called Silver Pride, and it's a tea dance and resource fair. And it's happening on May the 21st from 4 p.m. to 7 p.m. at the Eaton DC Hotel. And it is being produced by an organization called Seabury Resources for the Aging. And it's a huge event. And they called and asked, he said, be a part of it. And I was thinking, well, how can he said, be a part of it? Well, we're going to host the red carpet. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. If you want to see us in full regalia, the guys of He Said will be on the red carpet. So I want you all to go to this website, www.seaburyresources.org. If my producer can put that up there, and check out the what's happening for the event for Silver Pride. We will be there. I'm excited about it, and this will be the first time that I can tap into my red carpet hosting. What am I going to call it? My phase. But I'm ready for you guys. And speaking of being ready, let's get on with the chat. See what y'all did? Hello.
See what I love that.
See what y'all started talking about people's names and saying the wrong names, and made me think about how some of the stuff that people say in corporate America sometimes just like irk me, and I just look across the room at them like,
well, no need to get irked. It's Friday. We're here and we're all together. So, but thank you for sharing and making us reflect upon the power of language.
And also for confirming and affirming the reasons why some of us are not in corporate America any longer. We're not conformists.
You better wait a minute. I'm gonna say this because you all skin looks so good tonight, as always. Do you all just do it for the show, or what's going on? What's going on?
It's called all day work. All day work. I don't know about Sean, but I got on all day work. So.
Well, you guys know it has been a fast-paced week, and as usual, it has been action-packed. And so, as if you always say, can it get any worse? Of course it can. And we're talking about this week, another U.S. officials mistakenly shared confidential White House data with thousands of employees. And this time, the officials serving both under President Biden and Trump erroneously publicized classified information to thousands of federal employees, according to the Washington Post, reported on this past Monday. The information was shared in a Google folder by General Services Administration employees with the whole GSA workforce, according to the report. And amongst the data that was privy to over 11,200 staff members were potentially confidential White House floor plans and particulars for a proposed armored door for the White House Visitor Center. Now, of course, all of this is happening, under, the person who actually was involved in the first breach, Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth, who shared data, about a U.S. strike on Yemen's Houthi in a signal group chat in which he was joined by his wife, brother, and personal lawyer. I don't know how you all feel about this, but it sounds like we in danger.
Okay, Whoopi Goldberg.
It sounds like we are seriously in danger, you all.
Yeah, you remember that in the scene in Ghost where Whoopi Goldberg says to Demi Moore, like, "Run, girl, you in danger." Like, "Run, girl, you in danger." And I say that jokingly, but in all seriousness, the level of incompetency that is being normalized and dismissed is infuriating and quite frustrating, because one thing we know for sure, and that happened one time under another administration, whether it be Biden or Obama's, there is no question the hue and cry by the people, by those political elected officials across both parties, multiple parties. It's just the double standard just never gets lost on me, and it's extremely frustrating. And again, the normalization of this level of incompetency is really very frightening and scary in all seriousness to me.
Well, and you don't have to be a former president, Biden or Obama, because people forget that there was this great cry, this call
Yes.
Russia reveal what Hillary Clinton had done or not done in terms of, quote, emails, end quote.
Right. Mm-hmm.
So this is actually quite normal, I think, for this administration. So when it comes to their incompetence, we should actually expect it.
Yeah.
That's just
normalizing it. I agree with you. We should expect it because they're proving themselves to be very consistent. But
it's just happening so often. It's just like, I mean, and more is going to, a lot more is going to happen. But something is going to be so detrimental that you can't even pull back. Something's going to happen. So this week that kind of struck my nerve early this week. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Well, I want to take this in a slightly different direction. I don't know about many of you, but for me, Target is one of those stores that I just kind of find is my little happy place. Most of the time I can go in there and get a lot of, toiletries and fun stuff, but also really support Black artisans and businesses and so forth. But I have been on a fast. And unfortunately for Target, they have seen a decline in sales and foot traffic after rolling back its DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion initiatives, and requested a meeting with the Reverend Al Sharpton recently to discuss the company's rollback. So at Target's request, the retailer's CEO, Brian Cornell, will meet with Reverend Al Sharpton in New York this week to discuss presumably what the retailer can do to avoid future calls for boycotts. In January, the company decided to end several of its diversity, equity, and inclusion initiatives, including efforts to secure more items from Black and minority-owned businesses. Shortly after the decision went public, several civil rights groups began to call for boycotts of the retailer. Since late January, they have seen a 10-week decline in foot traffic, impacting sales and profits. Now, while Reverend Sharpton has not called for a boycott per se, there was a call for a fast by, of course, Atlanta pastor Jamal Bryant. And many of us recall that request for a 40-day fast from Target. Now, what I will say to you is I wondered how much I'd be able to hold true to this fast, because I really did see Target as a kind of regular go-to spot for me. I've missed it, but I've been able to navigate and negotiate around it.
Absolutely.
I don't miss it at all. And I am a person who can be very, very disciplined. I still don't listen to Janet Jackson. I don't listen to NPR. I don't do the Washington Post. I don't go to Target. So all those things that I feel like have been targeting us as a community, I don't do it longer. But what is most upsetting to me about this story, who in God's name appointed Al Sharpton the leader of Black people? He didn't start this movement of boycotting with Target. There were others, there are other ministers actually, and other Black leaders who actually did call for boycotts. So this is, for me, another time when Al Sharpton is trying to take opportunities from other people that he did not create. So he needs to step aside and stop trying to pretend that he's the leader of the Black community, because he didn't start this movement and he's not going to finish it. These are not his ideas.
Well, you know what? He said that. And I'm not even going to come after you on that one, okay? But what I'm going to do is acknowledge our guests our visitors who have come on tonight. How you doing, Michelle? Thank you for being here. Rose, thank you for being here tonight. I think I saw some other folks come in. Eric, thank you for being here. And Sean, Araujo, Monica, thank you all for being here tonight. I haven't said. First of all, if I can stop speaking to family members that support causes that don't invest in me, I can sure not go to Target.
Amen. And there's some other things.
That's how I deal with that.
That's ultimately how I dealt with it as well. But I'm just being honest with people. I have loved being able to shoot in the Target, find little things for my office, particularly around the holidays. They really have some really cool and fun little decorative things for the house. So I've really appreciated it. But I agree with you. Like, if you are going to not invest in me or appreciate my hard-earned dollars, I am going to respond accordingly. And I know that in America, thank you, Sean, for talking about Sam's Club. Not going to Sam's Club. But if I'm going to talk with my dollar, I'm really going to do that. And so it's been a sacrifice, but it's certainly been one that is, reminded me that, you don't have to have Target. But I want to finish also by saying to Sean, I agree with you. It's interesting to me that you would call upon someone who did not call for the boycott to try to negotiate moving forward. So I find that very interesting.
Yeah, and that's because he is an opportunity seeker.
Mm. Amen.
Amen. Hallelujah. Okay.
And there you have it.
Okay, and speaking of people who like opportunities. Okay.
Oh wow, where are we going?
Okay.
Where are we going with this?
Okay, and I don't say this to offend anyone who is of the Catholic faith or who is Christian.
I think I know where we're going.
Okay, but as you all know, I am not Christian, but I am a person who follows a spirituality that predates Christianity in any religion for the most part, and that's just me. But as we all know, on Easter Sunday, Pope Francis passed away.
No, the day after.
Hold your pearls, okay?
After he touched JD Vance, but go ahead.
Yes, after he married JD Vance, and I did not want to go there, but because people have been going down the conspiracy theory on that, but the Pope, he was an ill man to begin with. He did have double pneumonia prior to his death. He was 88 years of age, and he was known as the voice of the poor. I tend to not like that title because I don't know what he did in terms of helping the poor, especially if you've been to Rome and saw the poor, or Naples, I should say. But needless to say, he passed away at his home, which is located on the premises of the Vatican at a home called Casa Santa Marta. So I'm sad that I feel for those that love the Pope and who are feeling his passing, but it's the Catholic Church, and the church's religion, the church's history is notorious. And if you've ever been to the Vatican and walked through that country, if you will, because it is a sovereign part of Italy, I was disturbed walking through the Vatican at some of the imagery. Mm-hmm. So, but there you have it.
Well, I do think that.
Go ahead, Bobby. I'm sorry.
I was just going to. I do think that he is a spiritual leader and has spoken up in many ways to support marginalized communities. He has also, as a human being, made some comments and some doctrine, I guess, that have left some people not feeling included or heard or in ways that he might otherwise. But I do believe that he did indeed make some statements that I think resonated with a lot of people around humanity and compassion and kindness. And so for that reason, I certainly honor his passing and salute the work that I believe that he was able to do. No one is perfect. I'm not Catholic, but I certainly felt a sense of loss upon hearing about his passing.
Mm.
Yeah, and I just echo Bobby in what he said, and I do respect him as a Christian. I do respect some of the things or some of the beliefs that he had and how he fostered them. I'm not Catholic. My family is Catholic, but I do grieve his loss as well, and look forward to because he's paved some ways that have changed the Catholic faith. So let's see how they move, now that he's passed away, and let's see what's next. But
we're waiting for the white smoke that was the new car.
Let's see what happens. Okay.
Yep.
All right.
If I'm hearing you all correctly, basically what you're all saying is that he was a sinner like most of us, correct?
Oh my God, is that the transition?
Well, hold on. No, well, first of all, we are all sinners. We're all sinners until we become Christians. I'm not even going down that road with you, okay? So,
oh my God, Sean, where are we going here?
Where are you going? Where are you going with this?
Well, I'm hearing you guys, and you say he's not perfect, and
none of us are.
You better come up
with you're one too.
Okay, then. But speaking of sinners, let's get to the movie Sinners.
Alvin? Okay. All right, go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Sean.
Well, I know that some of y'all have not seen this movie as of yet, but I highly recommend it. And so I'm not going to give any spoilers, but
Thank you.
this movie, of course, for me, I loved for many, many, many reasons. And I'm not going to go into details, but this is Ryan Coogler's fifth film, and it debuted at #1 with almost $46 million with a budget of $90 million. And so that alone is setting this movie up to be a very profitable movie for the director, despite what some of the naysayers want to say about Ryan Coogler in the movie, starring Michael B. Jordan playing in two roles. So the movie I love for these reasons. The music. There's a scene that brings the past, the present, and the future together, and it is mind-blowing. And so I want to go back just to see that one scene again. The acting, the thespians, all of them flawless. Third, the fact that there was some history in there that I had never heard of. And I don't want to spoil the movie, but in terms of Chinese people who were in the Mississippi Delta in the early part of the 1900s. So I won't say any more than that, but it sets up something that we see in present day when it comes to Asians and their businesses in Black communities. But anyway, I hope that doesn't give you guys too much, but I love this movie. And I thought that the array of hues in terms of Black people in the film was just outstanding. The representation, it was great. I loved it.
Well, I'm glad. Clearly, you did like it, and I'm glad that you reeled John Reed back in, because John was like, "Wait a minute, you're going in on the Pope, and then you're talking about sinners." Okay. But John saw it, and John Reed, thank you for being here. John Reed saw it. John was like, "Huh?" So no, I did see it. It was a great movie, and I'm not going to say anything because I know that Bobby has it on his to-do list, and so I'm not going to say anything else.
I'm going to go soon. I'm going to go soon, I promise. But
thank you, Sean.
Thank you.
I don't usually do that genre of movies, but Sean, you and Alvin and others have convinced me that it is worth my time and effort. I've read some extraordinary reviews. I appreciate that combo between Coogler and Jordan. And so I'm going to go see it. So I'll get that soon. So I'm going to switch us in a slightly different direction.
All right.
Without any transition like passage that you had.
I ain't going there. Okay.
So I want to talk about, as an educator, something that has been on my radar, and that is the collection of defaulted student loans to restart on May 5th for the first time since the pandemic. So if you have been blessed enough to not have to pay since the pandemic, that is coming to a screeching halt. Since the pandemic, federal student loan borrowers have mostly been protected from the harshest consequences of not paying back their loans, but that is about to change, and change quickly. Linda McMahon, the Secretary of the U.S. Department of Education, said that the federal government will resume involuntary collections for borrowers in default on May 5th. Okay? In 2 weeks, loan holders will start the process of taking money from paychecks of borrowers who have missed their payments for 270 days or more. They'll also start moving to collect from other federal payments, including tax refunds and Social Security benefits. This is disheartening in ways like, this is from the woman who was referring to AI as A1.
Yeah.
That's what I want to say, as if we were talking about stakes. This is yet another level, again, of insensitivity, lack of compassion, humanity, and competence on the part of this administration and their appointees. I don't know why in this nation of such resources, we make it so hard and difficult for people to obtain education without going into just extraordinary debt. It's actually shameful to me as a nation that we put people through what we do in order to better themselves.
Mm-hmm.
Bobby, I'm going to say, because I'm paying student loans. I have to pay student loans. And when we were given that opportunity to stop paying,
the grace period, yes.
I saw that as a trick. And the same people who stopped paying their student loans were working like I was working. I just said, you know what? this is not going to fare well, especially when they say you're going to pay it, you're going to start paying. You knew it was going to come back. It wasn't like, okay, don't pay it, sit tight, you don't have to worry about it.
So you can pay yours?
Oh, I'm sorry?
You continue to pay yours?
I continue to pay mine. I continue, even at the lowest amount possible, I kept paying it because I just felt like with this administration, you know, that where we were, no, I didn't believe anything. So if you didn't learn anything in 2016, oh, baby.
Yeah.
Baby.
Well, this shouldn't be a rude awakening, is what I'm saying. So, and I don't mean to sound insensitive.
No,
I'm saying you knew it was coming.
Yeah. Well, here's the big thing. And I was in corporate America as well. And when I was in corporate America, I was paying in excess of $1,000 a month for my student loans. And yet I was not seeing a decrease in my balance. And I left corporate America, went to the government. And of course, I got on the program that said that if you work in a public institution, your loans will be forgiven in 10 years. So my loans got forgiven. That was due to President Biden. But here's the bigger thing. Do you all know how many private organizations, corporations have been bailed out of their loans?
And forgiven. Yeah.
Forgiven?
No.
Way more, I mean, in the billions of dollars.
Yep.
Okay. So I'm not saying that everyone should have their loans forgiven, although I do think that one reason the loans are high is because the interest rates are on average about 7%. Okay, and that is if you go through the federal government versus going through a private organization like a bank, like Bank of America or what have you. They set this up. They have set up folks who go to college and those who get postgraduate degrees. They set them up to be in this financial burden when it comes to corporate America. They're giving them all kinds of grants. Look at farmers. White farmers got all kinds of grants, funds forgiven.
Yep.
Not Black farmers. So this double standard, and Bobby, you mentioned that earlier about double standards. Okay, it continues.
Yeah.
Okay, and we have to recognize that. So, again, mic drop for me.
Well, before we move on, because I just got one more thing that I want to say. Thank you, guys. I want everybody to know we are on a network where we produce this show for the National Black Publishers Association's network and NNPA. And they are also, I just want everybody to know that NNPA has also called for a boycott of Target. So they're
definitely going.
I just want everybody to know that. As we wrap up the chat, ladies and gentlemen, because we just got into it today. I just want to talk about two people really quickly, and I can't spend too much time because we have a special guest waiting for us tonight. But if I'm going to give the Buffoon Award to anybody this week, first of all, I'm going to give it one to Kanye West, ladies and gentlemen. For those of you all who don't know, Kanye West has released a new single, and he is claiming now that his incarcerated male cousin sexually experimented with each other when they were kids, an experience that turned into a new song, as I said, called Cousins. And he claimed that as children, they received these gay magazines that his mother, Donda, had in her possession. And he goes on to say that he believes that because of what he did with his cousin, that led his cousin to be a criminal and is now in jail. I just wanted to say that's one buffoonery, Buffoon Award. The second Buffoon Award
recipients this week.
The second one goes to Shannon Sharp, ladies and gentlemen. Shannon Sharp this week said that he's stepping away temporarily from his ESPN duties while he deals with what he calls false allegations in a $50 million civil lawsuit against him by a woman who alleges he raped and threatened her. Now, he's on a tour telling people to forgive him right now. But both of these gentlemen, they're just not good representatives of African American men right now.
Of common sense.
Of common sense.
About common sense, no matter what color.
Of common You're right. And, you know, we could go on about it, but I just had to give them the Buffoonery Award for this week.
I got nothing.
Yeah, I'm going to hold my mute on this one because you don't want me to get started.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, that wraps up our chat for this week. Thank you very much. And are you all ready to bring on our special guests?
Yes, please.
We are ending our art April for Art series on a beautiful note, ladies and gentlemen, and we are so happy to end it with someone who is just one of the most beautiful people that I've ever met in my life. Maria Lana Queen is a self-taught African American abstract artist from Washington, D.C., whose work radiates emotional depth, cultural heritage, and social advocacy. Before discovering her voice through painting, Maria graced the runways of Washington, D.C. and New York as a fashion model. Her early career in the fashion world gave her a keen eye of color, movement, and expression, elements that now infuse her artwork with dynamic energy and elegance. She began painting 23 years ago after losing her brother, using art as emotional healing. A breast cancer survivor and advocate, Maria's work blends acrylic, found objects, and powerful themes of culture, family, democracy, and resilience. Her art has been shown internationally, including a standout feature at ArtScope in Miami and at the Venice Biennale in 2024. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to our He Said platform, Maria Lana Queen.
Hey.
Hey, Maria.
Woo! How can I kind of like top what just went on?
Well, you're here. You are the icing on the cake.
Okay.
You heard it already. You did it.
You did it. Thank you for being with us tonight, Maria. Really glad that you're here and sharing with us your art. And real quickly, ladies and gentlemen, I gotta say, I've worked with this woman on and off the runway in producing shows. And when I tell you, she has raised the bar with how models should show up and show out.
Thank you.
At an event. And I'm so grateful that you have blessed my journey with it in my career of being a fashion producer. So I'm going to kick off our questions. Again, welcome you to the show. But before becoming a visual artist, as I said, you walked the runway. What was that experience like, and how did it shape you creatively?
Well, thank you. Thank you, Alvin, my friend, my brother in fashion. I love you. Thank you for this opportunity. And thank you for He Said, for offering me this moment. To answer your question, so I started modeling when I was in college. I grew up poor in a low-income family, and I had to pay my college tuition. So fashion for me wasn't about looking well, necessarily having fun and just wanting to go to New York City or walk the runway or do fun print ads. I had to make money to pay for my college tuition. And so someone in the local DMV walked up to me one day and asked me if I wanted to take a chance at doing runway modeling. They kind of looked at me and said, "Oh, you look like you have a physique for runway and also print." And so I took a chance. I actually enjoyed it. And I began my journey on fashion, mostly runway, and then, of course, print work. And I did that, pursued a professional career while going to college and even working professionally for about 25 years of my life before I could say I retired from it. So it's been a great journey.
Thank you for blessing me. Okay.
Yes, thank you. Thank you. I've met some wonderful producers along the way and wonderful models, sisters forever, as well as brothers. I mean, it's been a great fashion community, and DMV offers all of that and more.
Thanks, Maria.
So, Maria Lana, I want to know, are there any lessons or aesthetics from your modeling career that continue to influence your work as a painter? I
think so. As Alvin mentioned, I tend to create very vibrant artwork, very colorful, intentionally. And you can see some of my work in the background here, but I love that infusion of bright colors to tell my story. And a story doesn't always have to be a happy story. Sometimes I paint about, most of the time, African American history and culture, which has an ugly taste in the United States. And so, but I do use vibrant colors to tell that story, to best reflect myself, but to also to grab attention. to draw people in. So yeah, the fashion part of it, I love color, and you're going to get that because I love beautiful things. And so I like to turn my artwork into something beautiful.
Thank you.
We often find that we are influenced by different experiences in our lives, and being so deeply immersed in the fashion world. Do you feel that being a model, being in that fashion world, has informed your sense of color or texture or the movement in your paintings? Actually, it
has. One, in the fashion industry, you want to look good, mostly all the time. So same with my paintings. I want to, it's almost weird, and excuse this expression, I'd like to represent a sense of perfection and taking my time, just like we take our time on, and Alvin, this best in fashion show production. You want to do it right. You want to look great. You want to sell that clothing, and you just want to look beautiful. I want my paintings to reflect the same thing. So they're not rushed. They are thought out very well. And I want them to hang well, just like you would hang, a designer would hang beautiful clothing or place that on a model. It's all about presence, attitude, and mood for me. And I guess I do bring that from my fashion sense.
Love it. Yeah, actually, I love that as well. Like Bobby said, I mean, I love it so, and because I'm hearing connectivity. Even though that you said that you started out because you had to pay your way through college. But I don't believe in accidents, and I don't believe that, I think the universe said, you know what, this is my way. So let me ask you this question. Do you ever miss the runway? And do you feel that you've simply transformed your stage, your work on stage or in print, if you matter, into canvas, into your paint, into your art, into your work?
So to answer your question, I do miss the runway, but it's up to me actually to determine if I get on the runway again. Just last month, I was on the runway, 110-foot long runway, and reunited with some of my fashion sisters. I had a ball, and I did that for me to see if this 56-year-old can walk in some 6-inch pumps, and I did it.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah, bio-freeze later, but I did it. And so because fashion is in me. So I do miss it, but also I think it, in time, if it's meant to be, I'll be on a runway again as a presence, not every day. Occasionally, if you ask me, I may grace a runway or maybe print work, which I still do. Fashion shoots. I do that for me. But to answer your question, as far as my artwork, actually, it's not about fashion in my artwork. My artwork it's about resiliency. It's about perseverance. It's about ensuring that while others try to erase, I intend to replace, to ensure that the African American history and culture remains seen and visible. And that's what I want my legacy to be. So it's not really about fashion. We'll get more into how I started painting, but I owe a lot of gratitude to my friend Marva Street, who, through the death of a brother, she provided me a set of art supplies and said, try to use this to address your grief. You're not sleeping, you're not functioning well. Marva is a serious art collector. She loves art. So she brought that into my world. And I became a self-taught artist. So I'm painting more about emotions and also what I believe my platform is and what my purpose is now on this earth. And that's just to demonstrate change through the power of art.
Now, Maria, you went right into my next question. You answered it, but I want to go a little deeper if you so desire to do this. I know, as you said, your brother's passing played a significant role in you becoming an artist. But what specifically inspired you to turn to painting after your brother's passing? Was it emotional? Was it? Share with us something about that moment that was a turning point.
Mental health therapy. It was my therapy. And also, again, Marva, I think she saw this being so close to me. She saw how isolated I became in a hole because of the unexpected death of my brother and my knowing some facts about his passing that may have contributed to his passing. And this was about getting me out of that hole. most people who know me know that I'm a very extroverted person. I love to socialize. I'm that Sagittarius in the room that will keep you going. But if you piss me off, you're gone. But but point is that I went into a hole of grief, and I didn't know how to deal with that. So Marva said, paint what's on your heart. And so I painted grief. I didn't even know what I was painting. I started painting squares. I dabbed a little color here and there. But pretty soon I started really thinking about what is on my heart and soul. What is it? And things just started morphing, or morphing, I should say, into just certain symbols. I'm a woman of faith. So there are crosses in my paintings. You talked about the Pope earlier, and may he rest in peace. I am Catholic, but I know that there's some challenges with religion and so forth. So I appreciated your conversation earlier, but in my paintings, I have to paint what's on my heart and soul. So I started painting, God help me get through this time. There were crosses or just ladders, which in my mind, what are ladders? Passages, pathways that we take. My brother had a substance use challenge. So I could see tracks on his arms. Those tracks are in most of my paintings.
Wow.
But the tracks have now turned into mostly like the decisions that we're making. I'm an abstract artist. So I'm creating the meaning. I'm showing the meaning of all of, what you all would see. Okay, tracks, ladders, but I'm putting that into an abstract formation on work, on canvas and paper to really reflect life and the passage, the rites of passage in life and the things that we go through, especially, depending on your culture and history and also ancestors. So this is kind of the makeup of me. I know I went into a lot, but I really get into my paintings, and I hope I answered your questions because I really tune into what's on my heart and soul on a daily basis, and that's what you'll get. You'll get my gut, basically, out on canvas or paper.
Well, you did answer the question, and I appreciate you getting deeper into that question as you did. Thanks, Maria. I appreciate it. I'm sorry about it.
I love it because it's clear that your artwork comes from a place of emotion and that your depth. And so it raises the question for me as to whether or not you can give us a word or a description of what it felt like that first time you picked up the brush and when you knew that it was going to be more than just therapeutic, more than a hobby, but actually something that would be a lucrative talent for you.
What it felt like, if I could think about this 23 years ago, I was nervous because it felt like, again, Marva giving me art supplies, a gift. It was beautiful. Canvas, paint brushes. And I thought, I'm a model, don't want to get my hands dirty, don't know anything about painting. I felt nervous, but I felt like I had to do it because I was by myself. So why not? Pick up something and learn it and do it. So I started brush stroking like a rhythm here, and it totally took me away from any worry or stress. It was so meditative it went from being a nervous feeling to a very calm feeling. And I just started getting into my mode, doing some things, started out very small, and then, going much larger. And finally refining my work to the point where practice makes perfect, in the sense if we do something more, we'll get better. My colors got better. My symbols in my work got better. But it was nervous, just like anything. I was nervous, just like anything new. But now it is basically what I live and breathe in. It's freestyle for me, and I love it.
When did you know that it was more than a hobby? That it really was.
I think I knew it almost instantly.
Oh,
because it was so therapeutic, and it was almost like I was a child on Christmas Day. What I would do is start late at night because I couldn't sleep. I had insomnia, so I would paint when everyone else was sleeping. So about midnight to 4 a.m. in the morning, I'm painting. Well, I would go to sleep, and about 8 a.m. in the morning, I found myself rushing downstairs, looking at something that I painted like a kid on Christmas morning. I'm like, I did that. And guess what? It wasn't anything grand, probably not anything you want to see. But I ran and I showed Marva. And Marva, being the wonderful, supportive person she was, I knew in the back of her mind, she was thinking, hallelujah, breakthrough. But I thought I was a Picasso, and she in her mind, and I said, Marva, you've got to hang my painting in your house, that beautiful home she has. And she kept walking me down from floor to floor to floor. And I said, right there's where it goes. She said, no. Went all the way downstairs to the perfect place in front of her front door before you get up the steps to her home. But she was so supportive, and I felt like a breakthrough. And then each time I got better, and it was her, she actually said, you're getting better. Keep going. Keep painting what's on your heart and soul. And then she takes me to places and starts showing my work to galleries and curators. And so it reaffirmed, like, what am I doing? It's what I'm supposed to do here, and keep going. And it felt good, like none other.
Okay, so now, being a self-taught artist, I'm wondering about challenges that you faced because you didn't have like the typically, the well-trained kind of like that. You came into it through an emotional experience. Have there been particular challenges that you've had to overcome as a self-taught artist?
Yes, not too many though. My personality is such that, I'm gonna, do my thing and I'm gonna move on. But in the beginning, as a self-taught artist, if you're getting within 2 years a solo exhibit from a prominent art gallery, surely there may be some challenges or questions from other artists who say, how did that happen? I went to school for this. I've been doing this for a while. And it wasn't so much negativity, but that is a type of challenge. But, having to prove myself or prove yourself in a new world, just like all of us, we've probably been there. You have to crawl before you walk. Yes. But in the art world, listen, art is about your creation in your heart and soul. To me, obviously, there are so many self-taught artists. Basquiat is my famous artist in the world. Okay, I channel him. I love him. Self-taught, prolific person. Before he died, he had 2,000 paintings he left on this earth. No, he was self-taught. No academic training. Same here. So he wanted to be respected in the art industry. And I think for me, I always, expect respect, the same respect that I would give others. But I think I've been fortunate. The local art industry and also nationally, even internationally, has been so receptive of my work. I haven't had any bad experiences, if you will, but because I am self-taught, it's always in the back of my mind to, do your best. And that was especially earlier on. I've had some great experiences, and I just can't say that enough, with a lot of people who have been on my side and who have supported me.
So Maria, I am going to move down to, what I'm calling personal resilience and advocacy. And you are a breast cancer survivor. How has that journey impacted both your life and your art?
Oh, yeah. So, I'm going now into my 12th year as a survivor.
Amen.
So wait a minute, not 12th year, 2015. So that's 25. 11, 12th year survivor. I'm a survivor. My work is all about perseverance and resiliency. And so I actually painted a series shortly after recovering from breast cancer. And, it was all about me feeling empowered. So anything that I'm going through, you're going to get it through my work. I'm a walking diary. So as a matter of fact, I'm known to do a couple of shows titled Painted Diary. So of course I painted about that feeling. Questioning, like, really me? But two, then saying, well, okay, this is the path that has been given to me, and I'm blessed to be standing. And my faith is very strong, and I have painted my story in my painting. So you will get that, Alvin, in my story, as I'm a survivor in so many ways, and it's in my DNA. So I paint and I show DNA-like images. Like when you look in the microscope, if you look closely at some of my work, you'll see microscopic-like images, because I am so curious about my DNA. But the breast cancer piece of it surely is reflected in that as well.
Thank you.
So Maria Lana, speaking of your story, is there a specific piece that you've created that you feel speaks most powerfully to your story? of
So
survival?
it's very interesting. You're going to go through a couple of my pieces, I think, on screen. And I can't say one in particular. It's really interesting. Over the past 23 years since starting, I have so many. But I have to say, when I had the opportunity to show at the Venice Biennale last year through the wonderful Nowhere Art Gallery on the Vineyard, I created a painting titled Rites of Passage, and it was number 6, because when I paint, I tend to do a series. I tend to do a number of the same title, but they're variations that distinguish the paintings. So Rites of Passage talks about, Rites of Passage traditionally is from an African ceremonial, African tribal ceremony where, family members go through, or people go through various stages in life. It's a rites of passage from birth to transition. So we have baptisms. We all do this. Baptisms. We have marriages. We have divorces. We graduate from college. We have different experiences in life, good and bad, until we leave this earth. So rites of passage, I think, tells my story. And I'm one of 10 children. And so you'll see, up to 10 items, or I would say symbols in my work. And mostly you'll see that in most of my work, like, who am I? One of 10. How is that represented? Either through numbers or symbols. You'll see, like African beadery work, because again, I'm channeling my ancestors, and beads were their prized possessions, likely in Africa, and coming over to the United States. So rites of passage, I think, could sum up my story, but it's just kind of like a part of my story. I'm still painting, right? Mm-hmm. So last year I wanted to nail it with the theme from Valerie, who's the curator of the Nowhere Art Gallery, and what she wanted to present in that show. And I created Rites of Passage based on my story at that time and where I think I'm going.
Well, Maria, in a few minutes, we're going to have we're going to show your art, and you're going to give us a brief description of what we have on display. But I want to ask you a couple of questions here. You've exhibited your work internationally, including the famous Art Scope in Miami. Tell us a little bit, if you can, briefly about that experience.
It was amazing. Let me tell you, as a self-taught artist, if you can get to Art Basel, Art Scope, and certainly the Venice Biennale, that is truly a blessing. And it's very, you have to be invited, and your work has to be appreciated. And that experience at Art Scope was phenomenal. I want to say it was one of my first times on a large scale national visitation, international visitors. I had a phenomenal experience. Hundreds of artists everywhere, and there's certainly great galleries. My work did very well. We always like sales. I did very well, and I enjoyed meeting so many people. But what really stood out of all those artists were the African American artists that were there. Not as many, but you could tell they just stood out. And I was one of them, and you can see the buzz and, the camera footage and people wanting to be, spoken to as artists and questions. It was amazing. And some commonalities too. So I enjoyed the experience at Art Scope, and also meeting celebrities and having them embrace my work and to also speak about it. It's an opportunity that I will never forget, and I hope to do it again.
Thank you. It's clear that you light up, though, whenever you say Venice Biennale. That was in 24. You clearly, when you're speaking, you just light up. Tell us a little bit about, just a quick highlight about that.
The Venice Biennale is the largest international art show in the world. And the Biennale happens every 2 years. You have to be invited. It's very selective. There are very few African-American artists who show. The Nowhere Art Gallery is the reason why I was chosen. They chose 4 African-American females to do a show together. We had a space there, and it was beautiful and beautifully curated. And it was all on a theme of threads of time and the bonds that we have as individuals. And so who wouldn't love to speak about the Venice Biennale? And I was rolling on the canal, as they say, rolling on the river, the canal, the water. It was beautiful. I finally got my gondola ride and got my Italian pistachio that, delicious ice cream. Gelato. Oh my goodness. So I light up because a little poor girl African American girl from Washington, D.C. is at the Venice Biennale.
Come on.
And that's quite an accomplishment. And so I do light up because that is, I'm just, it's magical. It was magical. And again, I hope to return.
So was there ever a response to your artwork that surprised you or moved you?
It was all, let's see, if it surprised me, I'm getting the same reaction to my artwork, which again has been phenomenal. It's been a good reaction where people were all drawn to my work. They asked me questions. There were important people from all across the world everyone is important. So everyone there who I came into contact with approached my artwork, gave me compliments, inquired about it. They engaged and they could relate to it because that piece was titled Rites of Passage. We all are humans. We all from birth to transition will have rites of passage. And to be able to speak about that piece, but to be in the company of 3 additional African-American phenomenal artists, female artists, and to have our work flow together. It was phenomenal. And again, Nowhere Art Gallery, listen, they know what they're doing in the art world and they're quite respected. So any artist that is represented through them, I think speaks volumes. So I just, I give them all thank you for that. I had a great time and the work was received very well.
Well, this is the moment that I wait for when we have artists like you on here. Ladies and gentlemen, we are going to show you some of the phenomenal pieces by artist Maria Lana Queen. So if you're ready, Maria.
I'm ready.
My producer's ready to show.
And there it is, Rites of Passage, number 6. This is what I call a diptych. So in the art world, a diptych is 2 paintings, but it's 1 painting together. But I'm a twin, and I tend to paint two paintings. Rites of Passage, this is huge. It was 100 feet wide, 70 inches tall. So it covered, imagine in Italy, in a beautiful historic building, it covered a wall, huge. There it is, Rites of Passage, and you count 10. I said I'm one of 10 children. There are 10 egg-like images in the center from where we are born, and they're all ascending in different movement. I've got my Afrocentric patterns and colors. I spoke about my beadery, the green beadery, again, representing in the African culture, beads are very important depending on the color. Blue beads, water, for instance, green, earth. You'll see that I have my cross is to the top left-hand corner in the second part of that painting. If you look closely, you'll see DNA, little small dots. There are tracks and ladders. There are cages. My paintings tend to have cages. They represent, we sometimes feel caged, right? We don't feel the power, but my cages always explode. They're always open. So there's always an opportunity to get out and persevere and move on. So that's what this is about. The church is still standing. In the African American community and culture, our faith in church is very strong to us, right? I grew up in the church. I say Catholic, but I grew up in a Black church. So it felt like, I was going to a Baptist church on Sunday with gospel choir. But the church is still standing tells me that in the midst of all this trauma and drama, the church and the faith is always there. You don't need a church, a physical building, but your faith is always there. And historically, we have had a history of church bombings, right? I'm channeling that too. I want to preserve legacy where others want to erase it. So that's what I speak about.
Maria, I'm going to have you to stop right here. Ladies and gentlemen, first of all, we're going to go over and thank you all for being here because I know I see in your comments that you're loving Maria Lana Queen and we're not going to rush her. And even Kendall said, I love her energy. So do I. But we're going to go beyond 8 o'clock and we thank you all. Sometimes we have to do it. It's our last April for Art show. So Maria, please continue.
Thank you. Yeah, and I've got an image of a slave ship here. Again, abstract. I'm self-taught abstract. And it's all about that journey, 1619, that our ancestors made. And who knows, did they make it? And so I talk about that. And the church is still standing, is that, again, through devastation and challenges, our faith can never be removed. Mm. This one is titled Strange Fruit. And I was channeling, of course, Billie Holiday. I love her, but she has a song, Strange Fruit. What is she singing about? Black bodies hanging from trees, being lynched. So again, I'm preserving history. This came about George Floyd time. To me, that was a modern day lynching. And I felt that. And you asked me, what do I paint? I paint exactly what's on my heart and soul. It's not always pretty. The colors are pretty, but that was an ugly time. Both strange fruit, hanging bodies, black bodies being so visible every day, hanging from trees. The George Floyd time, strange fruit. That's what you get here. Mm-hmm. This one is titled Resilience. I've spoken, and it's the one in back of me, actually. It's similar to the one in back of me, I should say, that I'm sitting in my living room here. Resilience. So you get 1 through 10. I'm one of 10 children. I mentioned that my painting is going to represent my story. But this is all about a Black girl. We're going to talk about my Black girl basketball soon that I've created original artwork. But I have a series titled Black Girls and also Black Boys. So I'm creating, I'm empowering. My message is that every young person, Black, well, all children, are meant to be empowered and to have a right to live peacefully and thrive in life. Mm-hmm. Unfortunately, if you're Black, sometimes that's a challenge. So I'm a Black girl. I channel a Black girl here. So that's the resilience and faith. And you see my ladders there as well. Mm-hmm. This is titled Renewed. So this came about, all of us, we sometimes find ourselves kind of like at a stage again where we're just like, I'm down, I'm depressed. I'm just like, at a standstill here. I'm not excited about life. I don't know what my next journey in life is going to be. But we get through that dark tunnel. There is light at the end of the tunnel. Mm-hmm. This is Renewed. And it's all based on my experience, but it was also based on when Ketanji Brown Jackson did her speech when she accepted the honor of being the first African American female Supreme Court justice. In her speech, I listened to that and I channeled. She says, "Look what again a young African American female perseverance, and now she talked about her story where she started as a young female and then moving up and where she is now, renewed." Mm-hmm. This is a new painting, which you'll see if you come to New York City, May 8th through the 11th at a very large international contemporary African art show. It's called Oh Say Can You See Me? So this is part 2. I did an Oh Say Can You See Me diptych at the Martha's Vineyard for a solo exhibit a couple of years back. This is a very large painting that will premiere in New York. And it speaks to modern day times. Can you see us? That patriotic song, Star Spangled Banner. Many people sing it. Do we fit in based on the color of our skin? Young children or, Black boys and Black girls, cage over your eye, not seen, cage over your mouth, not always heard because of the color of your skin. This is a distorted flag because we don't always feel like we are a part of America. And so this is my abstract version of that feeling. That's the diptych that I spoke about that premiered at the Vineyard a couple of years ago. And it was on canvas. It was on paper. The one you saw before is a large canvas. This is a diptych on paper. And it's what I just mentioned. Also, you'll see some circles. They are considered, the white circles are considered pavers. Our ancestors, people who have paved the way for us. They're always floating around our universe. At least I believe that. Everyone from the civil rights movement to our personal ancestors and family members. Black girl. That's what I spoke about. Black girl came to me in a dream, and I began to channel her and also Black boy and create my version of a Black girl. And it is her. She wants to thrive, be happy, play, do hopscotch, be okay and have fun. but it's up to us as adults to protect her and to allow her to grow into an adult and to be successful and to be able to thrive. She is my story. And so I tend to continue to channel her, Black girl. This one is titled Awakening. Recently painted this in 24, and it's a recognition. Basically, we've been awake, right? But these are the times where we just need to pay extra attention, and also never forget that despite challenges and tribulations, we're all going to be okay. But this is an awakening to continue to persevere, to channel our DNA and what our ancestors went through. And I think that because of that, we are stronger and better people. So this tells the story that I try to, implement every day, being very aware of who I am, and not allowing anybody to take it away or erase it. It's an awakening, and it's more so for them to look at this, to basically say, please, recognize that we are here to stay, but also we come from a DNA of very powerful people and survivors. This is titled Blocked. You'll see this is a new painting. Again, it's going to premiere in New York City, another large painting. It reflects exactly, how can I say it, what I feel today and what others may be feeling blocked. There's a distorted flag here, and you see these beautiful Black kids with bow ties, and maybe they're Sunday's best. Do y'all feel blocked out sometimes?
Quite.
Absolutely.
Quite.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
This goes back to another part of Strange Fruit. This was an earlier painting, but again, I mentioned that I tend to paint a number of the same title, but different variations. So Strange Fruit, it talks about a dark and deep story, lynchings, and also what transpires, and that awkward, horrible period of time that people may not choose to reflect on or want to remove, but it's still in our face.
Well,
I was going to say.
Maria, thank you for taking us through your artful journey. Well, again, this is one of my favorite segments of the show. Well, we got a few more questions before we let you go, but thank you again for giving us your artwork through your eyes.
You're welcome. I'm sure
Thank you.
She's showing up at basketball. I love it. I absolutely love it. So, isn't that beautiful? Incredible. So obviously art is open to all types of interpretations. What are your hopes in terms of those who view your art? What do you want them to take away?
What I want them to do is just to stare at my painting and figure it out themselves in a very good way, because I think that they'll get it. I did a lot of narrative tonight, but sometimes artists just want to stand back and watch the reaction of people. And so I would hope that they could see themselves or their story in my work. But again, what I really want to what I'd like the audience to walk away with is what I'm channeling today. For every effort to erase, my work will replace. Because believe it or not, our history could be completely erased from history books, where our children and young children won't even know what we know. So Absolutely. Maybe they can see it in my artwork when I transition, or maybe there'll be a legacy of my work on a wall, and someone will say, Strange Fruit, blocked, 1619. I'm just doing my part.
I love your commitment to replace what is attempting to be erased. So I appreciate that. Yeah.
Amen.
Yeah. So are there any new themes that you'll be working with in the future?
It's going to come to me. It's going to naturally come to me, but I am channeling in new growth. It's not necessarily new, but there are petals in my work, like flowers and things of that nature, very, very positive vibes. But I never know. It just depends on what the day and, environment brings. I'm self-taught. So again, it's my diary. Whatever is going to come out of here, I just don't know. I really couldn't tell you right now.
I get it.
Well, Maria, you have alluded to a couple of upcoming shows, but can you briefly let us know and our viewers know about any upcoming exhibitions that you want to share with the viewers, and when we have that information, we can post it on our pages. But anything you want to share?
Sure. Thank you. I'm going to be showing May 8th through 11th in New York City. It's titled the 154 Contemporary African Art Exhibit. It's a very large exhibit. And I'm going to be showing through the Nowhere Art Gallery. And so find me there. My newer works that were just showcased here will be there, the larger colorful canvases, and the premiere of my basketballs. So that's in New York City, and that's a huge showing. And then I hope to show at Martha's Vineyard this summer. And then stay tuned, Houston, I believe in fall, Houston, Texas. So I'm going to be pretty busy, and that's a blessing. That's where I'm going.
And we have your website, so we're going to put that up for everybody. And I'm sure your exhibits will be on your website, but we will definitely put that up. And before we let you go, Maria, I do have one more question for you. What advice would you give to women, whether they're an artist, survivors, or dreamers, who are trying to find their voice as you did?
I would say know that you have a voice. And when you walk in the room, you walk in the room like you own it. All right. Feel very empowered. It doesn't matter what background you come from. It doesn't matter if you are a fashion model or working retail. You matter, and you have a voice. And history shows that. So be very strong. I give the same advice to several mentees. I'm a mentor. So my advice is always walk with grace and walk like you matter, and you do have a voice. So find your voice. I don't know what that would be. If it's visual, if it's singing, if it's writing, if it's voting, your voice.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, on that note, we are going to put our hands together, our clicks together, whatever you have to do to applaud this beautiful woman, the artist of the night, Maria Lana Queen. Thank you for being with us tonight, Maria. Thank you for sharing with us tonight. And thank you for giving to us tonight, Maria.
Thank you.
We're so glad to have you close the show. Well, ladies and gentlemen, since we have run over a bit, I'm going to go ahead and give you the words of the week with Maria being right here on set. Life beats down and crashes the soul, and art reminds you that you have one. Those are our words for the week, ladies and gentlemen. And thank you again for joining us tonight on this wonderful conclusion of April for Arts, ladies and gentlemen. My goodness, but what a way to end the series, Maria. Again, thank you so much.
Someone said to show this again.
Oh, you all have to see how this basketball is packaged. Okay, it is
a basketball. Look at that.
And yes, if you come to my house, if any of you know me, I'm going to have one. Okay, so I'm going. Look.
I love the packaging. I love it.
It is absolutely incredible. Congratulations on all your endeavors, Maria. And ladies and gentlemen, thank you all for joining us, and we look forward to seeing you on the next live episode of He Said.
He said.
He said.
He said with a twist. All right, ladies and gentlemen.
Have a great weekend.
Be safe. Thank you, Maria.
You're welcome. Bye-bye. Thank you for this opportunity. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Here we go.